by no means does that actually describe what I do day to day. And I'm here to share with you an approach to ripple effect mapping, and that's what you may have signed up for. I see in the chat we've got a real mix of roles here, and that was important for us to see. So we've got some researchers in there, we've got coordinators, practitioners, strategic leads, and a whole combination. We're all leaders in a way, okay, and at all levels. And so what I'll tell you what we're not going to be doing today is we're not going to be doing research and evaluation, okay, but we will touch on that. We're going to go more to the roots of how ripple effect mapping is informative. We'll touch on some of the sort of classical theories and building on some classical appreciative inquiry stuff today. But there's so much more. I'm just going to hone right in on how we might use ripple effect mapping for development and learning, and then how as leaders, that's somebody asking me for the link for the session, as leaders, how we reflect and dream big in terms of what we can do within our work. So I'm just going to start to share some slides, and it may take me a moment to do so. Bear with me, I've had a couple of tech issues this morning, so hopefully it won't be too clunky for you. All right, and I can see that that's coming up nicely. That's fine, we'll get that going. All right, so in our place-based work, and for those of you, and I think most people kind of in the room probably are aware of the place-based work. So I'm based with Together an Active Future, and that tiny little logo in the corner there. And we are really a collaboration of across organisations in Pennine, Lancashire in the Northwest. There's many of my colleagues in the room today. Now, we currently are working in 43 different work streams in a whole systems, place-based approach to tackling physical activity inequality. Just saying that sentence is complex and messy, right? So then, never mind measuring this complexity, demonstrating change, success, or impact. It's hard enough to keep to grips with what's going on and how to make sure that we are making informed decisions on what our work streams might do next to continue the change, the success, or the impact. Together an Active Future is at its core is a group of leaders at all levels across different organisations in our place. And to varying degrees, everybody's got stories to tell, stories of significant change. But sometimes it's hard to put that down on paper. And we know across our organisation and across many others doing similar work, there's not always the capacity or the resource to bring in outsiders to map those stories for us. But we can do it for ourselves, and we've really taken a evaluation for learning approach in our work. And this ripple effect mapping is one of our, I want to say, cheaper, cost-free, but time costly ways of mapping our learning. And then there's varying degrees to which we can use it to develop, evaluate, or even pull into research. So let's have a little think about you. Why are you here? So you've put who you are in the chat, but what are you doing here? Why did you sign up? I'd be really grateful if you'd start populating the chat now. What are you doing here? What did you come for? Is there a particular program you're working on that you want to map? Have you just heard of ripple effect mapping? So what made you show up today? If you pop that down, I'd be really grateful. Thanks, Callum. To develop, reflect and learn as we approach place partnerships in the summer. Mm. To support your own ongoing development. Yeah, the ripple effect mapping can be individual, organizational, and project wide, and used across lots of things. Yeah, I can see a few of you are part of the SE Place expansion, and ripple effect map probably keeps coming up when that's been introduced to you. Mm. Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. And please do review these chats as they come up as well. Maybe others are writing down some other reasons why you might be joining today as well. Mm. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. It's really important that I understand some of the positions that you come from. It's not always possible for me to really engage and build that relationship with you like I might do if we were together in person. But please do use the chat as we go through the session. Popping up questions, things will occur. If you've done ripple effect mapping, some of you have got a little bit of experience here, some of you have got a lot, or you've seen it being used in different ways. I'd really love to invite you to pop it in the chat, or pop your hand up, and we'll make this as interactive as we can with all of you here. Thanks for contributing so far. So what's going to happen in this session? We've got a couple of hours, and we probably won't take the whole 2 hours. Well, we could actually, if you really get into it, if you really get in the zone. And one of the first success factors, you've shared with me all these. Why are you here? Why am I here? I'm here because I've found that I we have success with reflection and storytelling, but as a coordinator or a leader of some of this stuff, I do have to hold the space. We've all got busy jobs and lives, and we don't often stop within our programs to really look back and look forward and map all the intended and unintended things, all the successes and changes and disasters. We don't stop. I don't know how many of you have, I mean, many of you have been involved in sport development and different programs over years, different campaigns come out from Sport England, government changes, this thing, that's announced. You know, how many of you now are at a stage when you look back and you say, did we do something like this before? But have you recorded? Did we write down what we learned from that? Or even worse, didn't we make this mistake before? Why didn't we register that? So that's why I'm here, is actually to lock you in, hold the space, so that you can do some of that today as a means to experience ripple effect mapping with me today, and maybe take it into your own work. What I'm not here to do is to give you all the theory and talk you through it all, because that's available, and I will make sure that Beth shares with you. And we've got some great colleagues, I mean, some of them might even be in the room, across this place expansion work and elsewhere, especially there's different community development stuff in the US and international development, who have done webinars and have written guides, and we'll make sure you get that. But I'm here to give you an experience today. Yeah, thanks, Ian. Constant looking back. I've done that before. Yeah. So let's have a little breakout in a moment. Okay, Beth's going to set you up, and I think Beth are probably good for groups of 3 or 4 if you're happy to kind of manage that. Let's talk about us. I'm going to talk about me again, but I promise you the whole session won't be me talking about me. I've got a little mini ripple effect map story in my life. And we're just going to have a mini practice as a means to kind of engage with each other. Because that's what really elicits rich stories. I want you to think about a critical moment in your life or your career that you look back on and you think, oh, that really led to all this other stuff. And if you want, you can make it a little bit personal or a little bit funny. And here's mine. Mine starts with a seagull pooping on me. So that's my critical moment. The seagull got me. And then what happened? What happened was the seagull got me, and this really nice chap then took me out for dinner. And I happened to be married to him, and we've got a child. Critical moment. What else happened from that? It meant that my plans, career-wise, were to stay to move off into another place. Actually led me to staying in this place. I'm still in the same town 6 years later. What happened then? Well, actually, then I found myself in HE, and then I made relationships with Active Lancashire, and then I wanted to study more, and that relationship kept coming back with Active Lancashire, and then I found myself in Together an Active Future, and there's my mini story, and all started with being shat on. Okay, so mini ripple, one significant. Okay, thanks for the giggles and the laughs, whoever's popping them up. It's just a bit of fun. So what's your mini ripple effect? You're going to go out to a breakout just for 5 minutes. I've given you enough time to think of one, hopefully. It doesn't need to be about partners. And consider, what did that lead to for you in life or career? And share that. And we'll just give you 5 minutes. So Beth, are we okay to break out?
Yep.
See you in a bit. very soon. Welcome back. Wow.
Hi.
We got ripples and ripples and ripples. I don't know how you guys got on. Awesome. We're a pretty big group, so I'm not going to sort of shout out for sharing all of that, but that is just a little fun way to kind of get to know some of the people that you're in the room with, and that's really important. We need to connect to have meaning in the work we do, and especially when we start to look at this participatory approach. And maybe you got to know someone new, or in my case, from 17 years ago. Well, no, probably 12 years ago since we actually hung out. And there were some ripple effects that included me in that conversation, which was funny. So you know, things start when the conversation starts going, it starts going, right? And when I work with groups to do ripple effect mapping, I do always play around with something sort of light touch, something a little exploratory and personal to get started. Now, my screen's not showing this. Can Beth, can you just tell me if the slideshow is showing for you?
Yep, got it this end.
Thanks very much. I'll work on it from here then. So we've done that breakout. So why is ripple effect map the popular kid in school? You've probably already talked to that. Lots of us are here because we're trying to collectively understand impacts of a problem or a program or an event or an organization. And when we understand different impacts, I often refer to that because impact is a really funny word for me. I think academics refer to impact in one way, and practitioners across this place expansion refer to impact. Impact has a lot of other meaning. Impact is like an umbrella for significant change, success, behavior change, learning, or even failures as well, or things that didn't work out. And so that's a kind of realm in which we're playing around today. So this is the appreciative inquiry sort of model, which many of you will have heard of, but as you've popped things in the chat, and as we've had a chat there, some of us, I'm hearing that we're all in that place of like, let's appreciate and celebrate what we've been doing, what we're good at. Let's use that to set objectives. We've got co-construction, co-production at the heart of a lot of this place expansion work as well. And then how do we sustain that? And that's a cycle of learning. And again, I'll provide links if you want to kind of dig a little deeper into what that is. But this is the model we're kind of playing with. And it's a popular kid in school because everybody's talking about ripple effect mapping. And for those who maybe feel disassociated with the word researcher, this feels doable. This feels doable. So there's our cycle. Let's have a little look at this. So often in development, and whether we're talking in any development in place, you may recognize this paradigm on this left-hand side. So we identify a problem with the people, the place, we analyze some of the causes of that problem with the humans or the group of humans involved. We might analyze some solutions as leaders together in a room away from those other people, and then make a plan to treat the problem. And many of you, as we've talked about before, will recognize that script. And when we look back to, you know, I've just been reflecting back to my time in Active Gloucestershire, which I now realise is about 17 years ago. When I look back to that stuff, I see the cycle of that happening, and that was okay. But then that same place, those same people, then get another intervention 6 years down the line with, and what's happened to this treatment? How do we know it's had effect? Whereas appreciative inquiry is about celebrating what's happened, visioning what's going to be, what should be, what will be, and we're going to explore how then we might capture that. So it's that comparison to the traditional, to or what's been before to what's been now. And you may have been in workshops, and I can definitely share with you, when we look at it from an evaluative perspective, in evaluation terms, we are often taking that analysis of solution or analysis of here's our intervention then, and evaluating that. So a pre-intervention sort of assessment of what's going on with these people, this place, deliver the intervention, and a post-evaluation, like what did we do great? What did we do great? And how many people did we get to attend? And how many people said it changed their life? And that was it over 12 weeks. Ripple effect mapping from an evaluative approach takes that holistic approach to looking back, and then all, like your ripple effect stories, all the different strands and lenses which came from that can be looked at and explored. And that evaluative moment is just that moment in time, and as soon as it's shared or published, it's actually out of date. And that is a great challenge that many of us working in the evaluative space here are working with and through. So why does it feel accessible? Because when you start having a go of it, or why have you enjoyed it when you've taken part? It's participatory. Yeah. So it allows us to see stakeholders and ourselves even as active participants in an evaluative process, in a learning process, rather than having evaluation or assessment done to us. It's reflective. So it might come through a group interviewing or reflection. It's often done peer-to-peer, very unstructured or semi-structured. And the questions that we use in Ripple Effect Map are used to facilitate reflection, not test or measure. And it's visual. And actually, I think that's the biggest reason why ripple effect mapping is the most popular kid in school, because we can very quickly see scale, change, impact, and reach. And many of us are working in terms of place expansion. If you're coming from that place, we're working in the game of influencing others. Okay, and when we ripple effect map, we can very quickly see the influence or the reach that our work, our stakeholders' work, our community's work is having. It's mind mapping. Yeah, it is just drawing, and that is accessible and digestible at all levels. Here's a little look to what a map might look like, and I'm going to take you through some of this a little later on, but this is just one example on Miro, and it's not meant to be in focus because actually when you start to map, it tends to be really, really zoomed out. Now, because of tech issues, I'm going to have to flip to another screen in a minute and show you that. But here we've got at the heart of it a little start, and then lots of like post-it notes scattered around place, and lots of arrows going in different directions, and some questions we're asking ourselves. And also in here, we've plotted some videos. So using Miro has been useful for us to drop in videos of we've got the head of public health here giving us a little bit of evidence of the impact of this particular programme. We've got links to documents, we've got quotes, so we're able to not only map the action, but build a little bit of evidence in there. So when it comes to ripple effect mapping for reflection, and we're really into that discovery phase, we want to ask questions that explore and identify the strengths of a program or an event. And in our work, we really do like to work in that strengths-based space. We can think of this, these strengths questions, these discovery questions, and they're born out of sort of a grounded theory. But we can think of these as a way of asset mapping our own work or the work of the programme that we've been included in. When we work in ripple effect maps on our own, it can be great, and we can think of a lot of stuff that we've observed and done. But actually, the more people we include in this phase, and the more we explore and discuss, the more likely we are to reach a shared understanding of the positive core of the work or the event that we're referring to. So the overarching question in this phase is, what gives life? Yeah, what occurs here? And when we discover, it can get really, really messy. Because everything might come out that feels relevant or not relevant. Here's a bit of an arts reflective mat. So just starting on a big piece of paper, it can get really messy. And you know what? This visual doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't mean a lot to anyone. But when you look at this, I wonder if you can identify the aha moment in this ripple effect map. You don't need to be able to read the words, but you can see by, if you kind of look closely, circling, stars, different colours. We've got from spilling out in the discovery phase and telling all the stories and identifying the strengths and what happened, we've got some aha moments starting to emerge here. And I'm showing these examples because we're going to have a little start on this ourselves. So you were set up for this, I hope, to do a little reflection yourself. So I want you to think of, and maybe you've already prepared this, a moment of significant change, success, or impact in a program or intervention or event that you've been involved with. And if you've got your piece of paper or your map out, or if anybody's up on Miro, I'm going to give you a few minutes to get that set up. So if you've got a big sheet of paper or just a small sheet of paper or a pack of post-it notes, however you want to do this, can you plot the aha moment in there? And as you do that, I'm just going to have a look at the questions. So we hear that, Hugh, great question. We hear the word mapping, and I'm not sure. Yeah, probably not in the correct interpretation. We use mapping probably in a way that is just about getting it all out there and then plotting or putting some sticks in the mud of everything there. Mapping, then we can actually start to use in other ways. And I wonder, Hugh, when you talk about the correct interpretation, maybe you can jot down what you mean by that, or we can pick that up a little bit in terms of what you think your interpretation is. That we'll pick that up at the end, and maybe other colleagues have got a thought on that. All right. So, has everybody got something in the middle of their paper? I'm just looking for nods. I'm just and pop it in the chat. I'm just going to assume you're going with me here. Okay. We're going to start to work through our own mapping exercise now. So if you've got that significant moment or significant change, success or impact in the middle of your page, there's two things to start to map. What happened? What led to this? What was the lead up? What enabled this significant moment to happen? Now here you may refer to the work that you did. What did you do to get to this moment? You might refer to some of the conditions around it. You may refer to some behaviours that allowed this thing to happen. So I'm just going to pop a timer on for about 3 minutes and let you map out what led to this thing. Okay, so just as you're reflecting there, I'm just going to prompt you with maybe some other thoughts. Were there any relationships that led to this thing? Is there any other humans involved that you were able to lean on, or that lent on you or lent on each other? Are there any introductions or connections? Jot them down if that's there. And then were there any, I want to say, management behaviours that enabled this? Did somebody approve attendance at a conference? Do you feel the attitude of a line manager or of a leader or somebody who's maybe not directly involved with this event or significant change? Did that have any play on your significant moment? And my next nudge is, was there any organisational or regional or national policy or structures that were involved in this significant change, success, or impact? You know, the change in the national curriculum, the change in funding for this, the removal of something, you know, the guidance from DCMS for this. What is there anything structurally, policy frameworks that you think had something to do with this? Maybe it's a positive or negative thing in all of the above, and start to look at what you're writing now. And is there any way you can code, theme, or label them? Are you able to kind of highlight something that feels strong in what led to your event like this? Manager's approval for me to have 5 days to go and do this course was really a strong ingredient to this event. So can you highlight, label, maybe you're celebrating one of your own behaviours. I was at my best because of this. Maybe the strength of the thing that happened is something that is a strength in you. All right. Next one. Actually, let me know in the chat if you desperately want more time on this, or if you're, and don't tell me if you'll have to move on. I'm going to move on, but let me know in the chat if you're like, oh, just give me a few more minutes. And nobody will not support that, because everybody loves a few more minutes on this stuff. So let me know in the chat if you'd like some more time. Nice, and thanks for your patience. If you think I'm done, but you know, we've got a big group today, and it is an experience webinar. But I have no problem with you hanging around if it means you're reflecting and thinking a little more. Nice. Let's move on then. So you've got this thing in the middle of your page, and you've got this stuff before. You're probably starting to visualize a timeline here. So maybe you don't have to, but if a timeline and dates support you, jot that down as well. I do often plot a line to work from, but it's not necessary. So right now, if I was working with my team, and I'm going to give you an example of one of our teams. We've got a team in Burnley, and three people in that team. And they did a Ripple Effect map workshop. And what they did was they went away and they put their map on a whiteboard in their office. And they continued to add to it, but it became the agenda for every meeting. They didn't set an agenda, they just came in and looked at the map and looked backwards and added to it. But the looking back, every time they looked back, they thought of something else that felt related. And ultimately, it then informed the next decisions and what happened next. So now, as you look forward, so this about what happened, our next question is, what happened from this event? What did this event or significant thing lead to? So this is the bit you probably thought you were going to be doing more, all right? What did this lead to? So then we've got all our lines of it led to people doing something. It led to funding. It led to programs. It led to behavior change, more behavior changes in different people. What did this thing lead to? What happened as a result of this change, success, or impact? And again, I'm going to pop the timer on and give you 3 or 4 minutes to start mapping that. And again, some of you may have already started. And if you've got any questions as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask them in the chat. What did it lead to? So your significant thing, what happened after? What are the ripples from the thing that happened, from the event that happened? So we've done what led into it, then what happened next? And actually what I'll do is I'll nudge you with what my next question is now. What feels like an intended outcome? What happened that you expected to happen? What happened that you didn't think was going to happen? An unintended outcome. So maybe you can make those notes. We're looking for intended outcomes and unintended outcomes. And here's a couple of nudges. Were there any new connections made? New careers formed? New collaborations? New groups? New places? New leaders? Or were some things done differently? These are now the ripples, right? So did any ripples lead to something that felt significant again? Are there further ripples from that ripple? Nice. So if I were with a group in person, I'd be looking at everybody's map and asking them to explain and maybe asking for clarity. So if somebody was looking at your map right now, what have you not put in there that would need explaining? Is there any further context to any of the ripples that you've just put down? Is there a why or a how to any of the ripples? Lovely. I'm going to give you one more minute. One more minute. I'm just maybe looking at everything there. Has that conversation now triggered other stuff that you could put anywhere on your map? Is there just things coming up and you don't know where to plot it? Just give it a space, get it down. Is there anybody you've forgotten to include? Here's one that that isn't very academic. As you look at your ripple effect map, is there anything there that makes you feel differently? So, and again, you can use emojis for this. But actually, as you look at it, do you feel great and strong and pleased and proud about something? Proud of others? Is there anything there you're just like, oh, cringe? Why did we do that? Yeah, I look back on problems at stuff all the time. Like, what was I thinking? Why did I think that was going to work? Or, um, I feel sad that one didn't work out. It was out of my control. So now is a feeling reflection across your whole map. What are there any feelings come up as you look across your map? Any feelings? All right. Okay, last nudge from me. I mentioned aha moments earlier, and I wonder if you've had that, and it is a feeling as well. But is there anything you look back and you go, aha, and make sure you mark that? So here's your moment, as we've done before, to mark, label, star, circle, highlight, change colored post-it notes, however you're doing it. What are your aha elements in there? And you may have been doing it as you go along. I appreciate that facilitating this online means I can't see what you're doing, but and we'll all be working to varying degrees of detail and thoughts. Nice. Okay. So we've done our intended and unintended outcomes. I'm just going to share this way for ease. And before we go to break, so the time now is 10:52. I'm going to ask Beth to pop you in breakouts again to now tell this story or explain your ripple effect maps. And we'll, working through the stages we've gone through, what felt significant, what led to it, and what happened from it. And when we talk about what leads to something significant that feels like an impact to change or success, we refer to that as enablers. Enablers for change, enablers for success. And one of the things I'm doing in my work is trying to track what leads to success, change, or impact in a qualitative method as a researcher. So whatever's going on here, I'm able to track that as an enabler. So that's why I'm asking to think about what really led to this. And then we've got the outcome. But if we were to tell the story to somebody in Herefordshire, in Gloucestershire, in Lancashire, who's coming into the work and wants to learn other people's stories to kind of formulate their own, what they want to take away from your story is the enablers, the key ingredients. And so as you talk through your ripple effect map in a minute, I invite you to then ask questions of each other. What did that mean? Who did that? What happened next? Did you do that sort of thing? Were you involved in that project? Like really see this opportunity. So we're going to go into our groups again. We've got 20 minutes, if that's okay, to talk through. So that gives you 3 or 4 minutes each to chat through. And I know this is a snapshot. Like we can spend a whole day unpicking this. And as you talk your map, you might generate new thoughts because that's a participatory approach, right? As you're saying it out loud, other things emerge. So Beth, if it's okay, we're going to go into a breakout and talk for 20 minutes. So 10:55 through to 11:15, and then I'll suggest breaking. So we won't actually come back into the room until 10:20. Beth's all set to go. But in your groups, navigate comfort breaks or time. Hi, everyone. So, I'm not sure if you managed to fit in a break there or if you've been chatting, but can I just get a sense check of that? Does everyone manage to have a bit of a break, or do you want a 5 minute? Do you want to keep going? I've got nods. You did have a break. Okay. All right. How was that? No break, Francis. Do you want a break now? Should we pause? Let's give you a sec. And if you did break, this is a movement opportunity. All right, let's give it another 5 minutes then. Yeah, is that okay? So we'll come back at 20 past. Thanks, guys. Let's do some movement. I'm not leading it. I'm not leading a dance. Great. Thanks, Beth, for holding it all together for me. All right, welcome back, everyone. Everyone's back-ish. Okay, so we've had the experience of telling our ripple effect map and kind of talking about, I think some of us were talking about the application and where this feels like it may fit, and starting to think broadly, and that's natural to kind of go there. But it does elicit wider reflection on how am I doing this next thing? Ian and I were chatting about a program he's involved with is in the early days, and it's like, well, how does this ripple effect map serve? And then just even in the conversation of where the ripple effect mapping sits became a ripple effect map about all of that. Like, what would that lead to? What might this lead to? What is it? And it's replaying where our natural thoughts are going. Yeah, all we're doing is visualizing all the threads that are in our mind. So our next sort of phase, and this is not, I just click on this, is not that one, sorry. From what we've mapped, what is our dream with this thing we've got? And again, I'm aware that we're all starting to think about fine, but from the thing that you've mapped, or the program or the intervention that you've mapped. So what do we really want to happen with this that might be in contrast with some conventional practices? And again, I'm going to continue to facilitate you to reflect. And I will remind you, I'm not here to tell you how to do anything. I am definitely facilitating you to reflect. So, just picture a scenario where participants in a certain intervention have come together and they've been asking each other all these positive questions, these strengths-based questions about past achievements. And then we want to start to surface what is possible from this. So if we look back, what was outstanding and worth, and what did we say aha to that we can get more ahas in the future? So as we move into this dream phase, when we're in a collective mapping, but also it does happen in our own individual reflection, I want you to dream now with this, or with maybe something else you've started to think about and begin. So this is starting to play out with co-production. If we look across the place-based 10 conditions, and I've tried not to draw upon them too much, but collaborative co-production has been 2 of those 10 conditions to working in a place. What can we imagine would be? And the thing about doing this collaboratively with our participants, our stakeholders, is what I imagine, and the conditions of my life and my bubble of a researcher sitting in my place and my lived experiences, so different to what another stakeholder might imagine. And so this is where ripple effect mapping starts to help us get creative and do things a bit differently, which is what this place expansion, if you're here from that sort of element, or what any of this place-based or this whole systems leadership is about. What can we do? What can we envision based on what's strong that I've looked at? Based on I've now got some key ingredients and enablers to success, change, or impact. What is the real vision? And spending time in this space is really important. And also enjoying that time of the anything is possible. What if? What might be? Is something maybe we don't reward ourselves with time of doing. Some of us are maybe more inclined to be strong in ideas, to have lots of ideas all the time. And where do you put them? If that's you, you're going to be in your element in this phase. What about this? You could do this. Have you spoken to so and so? What if we did this? What if we can? I'm in that ideation phase. I really bother people with all my ideas, but I thrive in this point, and we could almost map all of that out. And then through the process of co-production, we start to design our destiny. So what should be? So we might get rid of some of those high floating ideas, but some of them might start to land. And this is a time process. So this might not all happen in one time. I might add this ripple effect mapping process. You might do it in an hour. You might do it across meetings. You might take a series of weeks to come back to it, depending on what it is you're working on. Uh, Mo's in the room now. I've discovered it's actually him, and I know that Mo's in Blackburn with Darwin with a certain project. He did a lot of looking back with one of our strengths, one of our asset leads, a lot of looking back to figure out, and just mapping what the activity was pre-investing in this project, pre-bringing someone on board. It was so important to map all this work in Mill Hill area of Blackburn to figure out what is it, what's brilliant about it, why would we as an organisation collaborate, pool resources and partnership? That was one way. And I now know, thanks to Mo jumping on, he's now using it in a creative phase in this phase. So much more looking forward, destiny and dreaming and considering what could be within these boundaries. So this may fall across different ways of working and across different time periods. And I know with the family helps work, and Mo might jump in on the chats or anything. It's a slow, take your time, have some ideas, reflect, go working in lived experience, working in organizational development, come back, build on it. That's what's happening here in this destiny phase. And when it comes to starting, I call this putting sticks in the mud. Yeah, or you know, there's a whole blob of ideas, but it's about building real visions and ideas that have the greatest potential. Really co-constructing, co-producing the ideal, starting to put some structures around it, some processes, starting to go from like the super enthusiastic thing to the strategic, concrete and focused activity. And now participants are asking these positive, provocative questions. And then relationships are built and the program or the intervention or the work starts to feel doable. Ripple effect mapping for evaluation. All right, this is my last section. And I know this is going to come up, but if you look back to what you've produced or what potentially you might be producing if you were working with a participatory group right now, there's an awful lot of data there. Right? And that in itself could be written up, identifying themes, aha moments. And you know what? I'm really good with presenting to elected members data that is titled aha moments. Yeah, like I'm looking to win others over with my learning and my impact as an evaluator, and I'm looking to communicate in lots of different ways to do that. So what evidence sits, and again, here's a moment for you to look back at your map. And this might be light touch or from light touch all the way to hilarious and robust evidence. As you look back in your map, all over this map, this thing you've got now, and I'm visualizing you've all got these crazy mind maps in front of you. What evidence have you got that shows that thing you put down happened or that it had significant impact or change in it? So have you got numbers of attendance? That's one thing, isn't it? That's evidence. And did those numbers in attendance, and I'm always thinking about so James Nobles, who adapted this REM model, and many of you have attended his workshop on this evaluation kind of stuff, always give the example in Gloucestershire of the cycle group that went from 6 women attending a cycle club to 12 women attending a cycle club to 18 women attending a cycle club, and then the ripple effect went off to 4 of them got trained and then 2 of them set off their own club. So where numbers don't feel significant to start with, over time in your ripple effect map, they become significant because what did that numbers mean? Okay, we might have had 500 people influenced by something, but one commissioner was influenced. So that number 1 in your map is huge, because that one commissioner then went on to fund something. In fact, I've got a story in that one. We've got an example of that. So we've got a football therapy program called Creative Football. I could talk for 2 hours just about the ripples all around. They've got ripple effect mats the size of a whole wall. Essentially, they're now a CIC. There's a big long story of how they got to that. And they invited LCSFT, so Lancashire and South Cumbria Foundation Trust, to come have a kickabout, to come and join in a session. And one commissioner, one guy, Craig, just by participating and being part of the football session, significant moment, is now commissioning through his work and linking into further commissioners and contracting and talking to other system partners about this work, who are now ultimately commissioning similar work and similar learning. It's just going on and on and on. So that's the number one. So when we talk about putting numbers on a map, they're all significant. Have you got videos? So if you're working at a practice level, and again, when we talk about evidence, we're not talking academic today, and that's for another occasion. What's your evidence? Have you got stories, videos, have you surveys, anything that feels doable? We use an awful lot of video evidence. And I use that from a point of, we don't then go and analyse it and process it through ethics. Like, lots of people feedback, and many of you in the room, I can see faces who've done videos to me. I'm looking at you, Francisco, and you're like, oh, those videos, there were so many videos to process, people doing updates, sharing success stories, and capturing it. When I that example of Rosendale Health and Wellbeing Plan there, our big solid evidence was the Director of Public Health for Lancashire talk to camera to say, this is different, this is unique, we need to be doing more of this, I'm going to share it. Boom, huge piece of impact for us. And so that's one way of collecting evidence. But then you can get more formal with it, yeah? So we can take our ripple effect maps and turn them into story maps. But this is where we might start to call in, who am I going to lean on here? Am I going to get a little extra training? So everything is doable within your own capacity, in my experience up to this point. Now maybe, have I got some technology I need to engage with? Don't need to use Miro is an accessible one. Kumu is a great accessible piece of tech. There's other analysis where I can start plotting stuff. And then we start to get into that realm of research and people who we can lean on to support us, or learning and development for ourselves, where we can start to get a bit specialist. But to what end and to what point do you need to go to this place? So just to share where this fits in to our model, and this is our model, and it's for people to review. Some of you have seen it before. So this is our sort of public working evaluation model. We have an infinity model here, and on the left-hand side, it's all about reflective practice, and it starts there. I've got this R to R kind of theory. We start with reflection, yeah, and that includes thought partners, which we call learning pods, lots of participatory workshops, lots of ripple effect mapping, lots of observation, lots of stories of change, and everybody who is part of our collaboration or works in some of the work within the collaboration, we know is doing this, so we structure some of the space to do this. This is successful at different levels in different workspaces, because we're working in such complexity, and we've always got new people coming into the fold. Then over here on the right, we've got our kind of research side of things, where maybe we do need a little bit of expert help. And when I say expert help, maybe we've got internal research or evaluation, or maybe that's learning and development for self. But this infinity cycle always comes to this communication thing in the middle about collective understanding and purposeful communication of that. Hugh, what a brilliant question. Yeah. So ripple effect maps can be used in isolation to help us move on to the next stage. But yeah, it can become this huge body of work, this ongoing continuous document, which is why I talk about colleagues who've got huge big whiteboards with this going on. In fact, I've got one right here, but also using the apps and the software like Miro can be really useful for those infinite whiteboards to kind of keep mapping. And yeah, it can definitely be difficult to remember things when looking back, but that's why having something live and revisiting it, not doing everything in one session, can be really can be a way to approach that. Because things, you know, when you're looking back, when things come to mind when you're in the car driving home. So some of these processes allow for that. I love that. Yeah, yeah, really good for maintaining motivation. I'm going to come back to some of the sort of the benefits and wins you think of that there. So when I talk about my R2R model and how ripple effect mapping, you know, I could map all of this. You could ripple effect map all your ripple effect maps, right? This is infinite, and we have to then control it. Yeah. We work in a space of creating channels that can spread information and learning far and wide, which is why I find ripple effect maps serve some of the work we do. And we do this to varying degrees of success within the work. And you know what? Sometimes we have periods when we're not mapping as much as we can do, and somebody is overseas an awful lot of that stuff. I don't always know how much mapping is going on. Firstly, that we conduct and co-design, so that's one of our objectives. Yeah, we want to evaluate empirical social science, but design stuff so it can be communicated, sharing our discoveries in ways that resonate with all of our audiences. And we think ripple effect maps is a great way. We've done a series of stuff with some schools, and it's even landing at sort of year 3 level to see where their particular intervention went. Being able to recognize and blend our own biases is really important. So the value of stepping out and allowing others to step in with their lived experiences so that we can communicate our learning and grow and develop from there. And ultimately, we want to contribute to some high quality place-based work for all of you guys. And this through all of this leadership series that Beth and the team have been providing, at the heart of it is pausing like this in this time. The value you've given to showing up today is reflection. And ripple effect map is one of the ways to explore that. So I come back to this question, why are you here? Yeah. And I wonder if you'd be willing to pop in the chat. Again, thanks Hugh for starting that off. Like, what are you feeling now that is emerging for you in terms of benefits, challenges, and I will call out all of those as well. Usage. Is there anything emerging for you want to share that the rest of the group will probably pick up and learn from? I want to come back to Hugh's comment on motivation. Yeah, it's like when you start, if you're new to place-based working or systems working, there's a lot to take on board. Yeah, the complexity, and I call it stepping into that swamp, the blob, and you've got to have somewhere to put it. But what I've learned is by putting it down into maps helps me see, visualize, think about the future, and also get encouraged by the great stuff that's going on. Often we're always just in the moment or in what I've not done or what I've got coming up. So to be able to look back and celebrate and see those key moments and then reapply them or share the learning is really motivating. Yeah. All right. So any comments on what I'd love to hear from you? Is anybody thinking about how they might use this, or are there any questions? What I've not done is you've all been in breakout groups to chat to each other, but is there anything you want to ask me about the usage or the practicalities of some of this? Because I'm really aware that I have not touched on everything. Yeah. No matter how small, put it down. Yeah, I often talk about you got to just start with one bite of the elephant. And so ripple effect map's a great way to start. Andrew, you've got your hand up.
Hi, Emily. Hi, everyone. Yeah, you may have touched on it right at the beginning. But again, just for clarity, what goes in the middle?
All right. Your moment of significant change.
Right. The
Impact or
reason I
success.
thought that's what I've noted down, and the reason I asked that then. So if I'm starting on a project today, right, I crack on, I'm doing it month, because Hugh mentioned it or related to it. There's a significant moment. Well, how can I then reflect on things that I may have obviously forgotten about if I've not noted it down?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, love your point. Okay, so for the purpose of today, we've done a bit of a look back in order to try and experience the whole thing. That is a great way of stepping in. So the example I talked about with Mo working with family hubs, yeah, when you're starting with something new, it's a fantastic way to record what's going on, whether it be evidence at any degree of robustness. Yeah, as you do that, but then what will happen is you find over time, you then look back and you start to identify what feels significant. So there will be a looking back phase, but yeah, we frequently, in fact, I have quite a lot of my team members just as soon as they start their onboarding, is to start their ripple effect map. And they frequently then, as long as it's about returning to it and using it for that development purpose, yeah, you will look back. And then as you look back, you'll go, that felt significant. But just starting it now is a great approach as well.
So would it be worth then almost starting if I was to create a sort of template or something like that because we're using it as a valuation measure, one of the major sort of evaluation measures that we will use to show the impact and what have you, where if I was to maybe start a ripple effect map with, let's say, an intended outcome or what we think might be the outcome or what the target of that project is or whatever it might be, branch off with all the things that you're doing, people you're meeting and what have you. When you hit that significant moment, that then creates, in theory, its own little ripple and you go off there. Would that be a starting point?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no right or wrong way in this level of this approach to do it. I think that the point is that you're getting down the interactions, the relationships, the actions, and they sprout off their own ripples, and maybe then that's something to focus into. Alison's greatly identified examples. I've got some copies of some to share, so you've got what was to take away. But when it's on a screen, it means nothing. Yeah, but I've zoomed in on a few examples for you, which you'll get as a follow-up to have a look at, like, what does this look at? And then we zoomed in on that one, disregarded the rest, and we continued off on that journey. And that's where it goes. But using it as a starting point, it is a great approach. But what Nathan said there is the challenge. Carving out the time to commit to this from the start is great. So when you start with this in mind, with this intention, and you think about it, Andrew, in terms of this is going to help us inform our evaluation choices, how do you carve out the time or make that a commitment to you and your team is a challenge for sure. And I know, I'll confidently say that some of our teams and some of my ripple effect maps have dropped off. So then I go back into them a few months later and I, have to spend some time building them up again. I'm just reading these. Prioritizing time as a challenge, yeah. And Ronan's commenting there, and I'm aware that Ronan does you go back in and do quite a lot of ripple effect mapping, don't you, Ronan? But it's when you can get the team together and you get rid of all those other priority agenda items and to-do lists, like when you actually sit down together, so much richness can come, but it's hard to embed. Yeah,
it can become quite overwhelming when you've left it for so long as well, and you think, oh crikey, like we've got about 6 months of ripple mapping to do in an hour session, and again you put these sort of, you challenge yourself and you can do it, but again you're going to miss things out, and it's got to be constant for it to, I think, truly work. But it's difficult.
Yeah,
it is difficult.
Yeah, Yeah, but Ronan, I push back and then so. But when you do manage to get to it, what's the value when you do sit down? What is the value for you in that experience of committing to those ripple effect maps?
I think first of all, it shows you like just the breadth of the work that you do and the impact it's having. First of all, so it's really nice to see a visual of actually what you've been doing over the last month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever the time frame might be. But then again, it can't help but influence your thinking on what happens next, and spark ideas, or challenge colleagues, or just sort of again sparks conversation really. So it's one of those things that I know it's so beneficial. I know it's valuable. I know I should be doing it. It's like it's a slap on the wrist that I'm not doing enough as I could be and as much as I want to be. But it's making that time and trying to embed it into, like I say, every week. And ideally, if you can, even almost like every day or every other day.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, and that's one of the reasons this session is sitting within a leadership series. And I don't know if you regard yourself as a leader in this work, but you are. But who, and we talked about your enablers earlier, like who holds the keys to creating structures or changing some of the culture for this within your project, intervention, or workplace? And if you are one of those people, then if there's value, then how do we fit it into those structures, those cultures? So we talk about I kind of anecdotally talked about why is ripple effect mapping the most popular kid in school, because we can all do it, because it's digestible and accessible. But we do need our leaders to help us. We do need you to as a mass create this culture for reflection and ripple effect mapping. For me, when we did a map with some schools recently, and we've got middle leaders. We've got a middle leaders program in schools, and every middle leader has to keep like a portfolio, but it's a ripple effect map. So Andrew, talking to how it might play out for you in your program as well, and then draw the ripples of whatever interventions or changes they're making to physical activity across the school day. We showed some of these maps to a group of head teachers, and they were just so impressed. Now, they didn't zoom into any of the details, but the power is in the professional development of the individual, really. But then the head teacher saw it and was so impressed and valued it, that then has created time to put it into staff agendas or inset days or sort of staff meetings and briefings. And so the more, because it's so visual, you can show it to the people who hold the space for you, or you can make that decision to increase the value and fit it within the culture. That's the value in it, is it looks dead impressive. Nobody wants to read the detail, and this is one of the things I'm learning as an evaluator. Like when I write reports, it's quick, short, sharp summary. And if you want to know more, click this link, 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 because I know that my leaders and elected members and commissioners, they're not going to read my 18-page report. They might get my summary, but if it's written well enough, or if it's displayed in a map kind of way, click this link to learn more. So getting clever with how we communicate it can change the culture. Okay. I am always want to finish a session early. This is a long slog and you've been in a deep reflective moment, and I want to encourage you for the final 10 minutes of this time that you've got protected to get away from your desk, to not think, to do some breathing exercises or move, or just clear your mind in whichever way you do. Please don't log on until after midday, is my question. In the follow-up email, there's going to be quite a few attachments. They are just tools or links for you to get to when you're ready. And do let us know. There's going to be a feedback link coming in the chat as well. do let us know how the session was for you. What else you how maybe we didn't meet your expectations, because it's such a broad thing. I'll do my best to direct you to some of the breadth of information, knowledge and webinars that are also there that you can continue this learning. Today was an immersive experience and I hope that it was rich for you. Have an amazing rest of your Wednesday. And I look forward to seeing some of you in all the places and spaces that we reconnect, even if it is in 17 years' time.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.